My name is David Strand. I came from Canada in 1944, and the first Sunday at Immanuel, I met Hannah Olson. She was the superintendent of schools at the church, and she was very firm, very well organized. The reason I think she should be a saint is she took in kids. She had four Native American children that she took care of for a long time. Anyway, and one interesting side on her was that she didn't think kids should be playing marbles. So anytime she found kids with marbles, she took it away from them. And one time when I visited her home, she had several jars of marbles that she'd confiscated. And another guy, his name is Clifford James, he stood at the church door every Sunday morning for I don't know how many years. And he shook hands with you, and he called you by name and opened the church door for you. Minnie Overland lived across the street where the veterinary clinic is now. And during the construction of the church, probably a couple of times, she brought cookies and coffee down to the guys working a couple of times a day. And they even made her wear a hard hat. Anyway, and then later she was an expert lefse maker, and she worked in the kitchen and did all kinds of volunteer stuff for the church. But the guy that probably did the most stuff of anybody was Jonas Byberg. He had a shop down there where the post office is now, and he didn't like the way the front of the church was. We had some big concrete steps up there, and when you came out of church after worship, you had to stand in the rain or go home. So he got a hold of Belushi, Pietro Belushi, and they redesigned the front of the church. They built two little buildings. We called them dog houses. If you look at some of the plates or pictures of the church, you'll see them. And he built ramps. No more stairs. He built a ramp up to there, and then in the narthex, there were two more ramps that went down to the basement so you could have coffee and out of the rain and go home when you wanted to. And he was a genius. During World War II, we needed a lot of linen from flax, and the traditional way of doing it was cutting it with a mower, but they needed more, so he designed this machine to pull the flax, so we got some more fiber out of the roots. He also designed a feed grinder. Another thing he did was he created a fund over at the coast. I'm not sure of all the details of it, but he said pastors should learn how to preach. And so every year there's funds over there, and the pastors, ours or any other pastor, I guess, can go and learn how to preach. His father was a pastor, and I wondered he thought maybe he didn't have very good sermons. That's why he donated the money to have preachers go learn how to preach. I don't know. And I think he's probably the foremost saint we had. Yeah, I think all of these people were saints. There's probably many more that I don't remember. We had a great congregation, people doing all kinds of things that sometimes people did things that you didn't know about it, and it's still going on. Every once in a while I find out somebody's doing some secretive little thing to help out the congregation, but nobody knows, which is probably a good thing.
My saint story involves my daughter Catherine, as well as a 17-year-old friendship with a gal that Dan met in graduate school by the name of Kelly Pesnell. Catherine has a love for swimming, and that is very apparent if you talk to her for just a couple minutes. Back in 2016, she was trying to qualify to go to regionals and missed it by less than a tenth of a second in one event and did not get to go, and it was very disheartening for her. And so she put her whole goal and focus into qualifying in 2017. And Kelly and Dan, it was a friendship that was started about 17 years ago when they met in graduate school at Idaho State University. The two of them became friends studying together, and as they graduated and paths separated, we went to McCall, north of Boise, and Kelly stayed in the Boise area. They still would keep in contact every year, going to nurse practitioner trainings, running fun runs. And in that time, though, Kelly was diagnosed with rectal cancer, which she fought longer than the oncologist ever thought she should have. She didn't want to give up on her girls. She wanted to be there for them. She wanted to be there for her community and for her family and her friends. She came off of hospice twice because she wasn't ready to give up. She was ready to keep trying whatever there was to give, whatever there was to try. In the end, she tried several experimental treatments and hoping that if it didn't give her a cure to cancer, that it would help somebody else. But in the end, it had spread to her brain, and it was very hard for her to see life going. But how that relates to Catherine's swimming is the fact that Kelly's daughter did qualify for regionals in 2016, which were held down in Corvallis. And we went down to see her one last time and see her daughter swim. And Catherine and Kelly just struck it up like as if they were friends and had known each other, all their lives. And Kelly was such an inspiration to Catherine. They made a promise there that day that they would be back that next year, see each other, and Kelly would be able to see Catherine swim. Kelly unfortunately lost her battle with cancer in October of last year and was not there to see Catherine qualify for regionals and make it this March in 2017. But Catherine, when she took to that water, she knew that when she drove in, she was doing it for Kelly. She was qualifying for Kelly because she had made her a promise and she was going to hold to it. But the story doesn't end there. So not only did Kelly help Catherine to qualify by giving her that push and that drive and desire, but back in February of 2017, the team from Silverton and State and YMCA found out they were going to be unable to compete at regionals. Adult politics came into play. We don't know the whole story. But as a parent, I took to the fact of what can I do to get my daughters there. She gave her heart and soul. She made a commitment to a friend. She wanted to be there and swim. I sent out several emails to higher up YMCA individuals, shared Catherine's story about that promise she made to Kelly and how Kelly wouldn't be there to see her, yet Catherine swam every race for Kelly. One of those emails went to the director of the Boise YMCA, who knew Kelly personally, and said he would take it upon himself to figure out what he could do to get them to swim, and did say in the email back that her loss was felt throughout the Boise YMCA. And a day or two later, we got the call they would be allowed to swim. And that is my saint story, looking at the fact that a saint doesn't have to be somebody who does something large or grandiose. It can be something as small as a friendship started 17 years ago that, unbeknownst to us, could impact a 12-year-old daughter's life in the way that it did.
My dad was Oscar J. Faunus, born October 27, 1895, and died May 17, 1956, of cancer. I was just a freshman finishing my freshman year of high school when he passed away. My dad was the caretaker of Grace Lutheran Church in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. He carried the keys. He was the doorkeeper. I looked up a saint, and it said, recognized as having an exceptional degree of holiness or likeness or closeness of God. And I thought, that all kind of fit my dad. He had the degree of holiness. He had the likeness and the closeness of God in the way he lived, in the way he treated us, his care for us, his discipline for us, his love for us. With 6 of us, there's got to be always something going on, and it was family time, continuous family time. There was also seriousness to him, and you had to mind. And he brought you up in the fact that you behaved when you were supposed to. He wanted you to do your job right, do it good, I know one time I was talking to a friend outside of a home I was babysitting in, and my dad happened to walk by. And I'll never forget the lecture I got, that I didn't associate with somebody else when my mind was supposed to be on the children. Just little things like that that sticks with you, that makes him a fatherhead. Like, I think God talks to us and says, this is what I want you to do, this is how it should be done, this is how I'm raising you. This Valentine is meaningful to me because it's the one time that I got something from my dad. It was on Valentine's Day. He gave it to me. And my dad never had very much money to buy things. He showed his love in other ways, but not just material gifts. But one year when I was a little girl, this Valentine came and was just to me from Daddy. Another thing that my dad loved was sports. When I was a little girl, we would walk hand in hand to what was known as Carson Park, and I got to see whom we call Hammerin' Hank. Yes, Hank Aaron. He played in Eau Claire, is in the minor leagues, and I just enjoyed going and sitting and watching him. And so my dad was the saint of sports and baseball. My mind still talks to you. My heart still looks for you. My soul knows you are at peace. Love until we meet again on the third base side of the ballpark.